Hi, I'm John Green, and you're watching Crash Course. What? It's not? Hi, I'm Emmanuel Remisor, and you're watching our Crusty review project. Seriously, you guys gotta tell me these things ahead of time. First key concept, industrialization and global capitalism. As you can probably tell, the Industrial Revolution, the Second Industrial Revolution, the Agricultural Revolution, the Meiji Restoration, and the enclosure movements happened during this time period. To sum up all of them quickly, because we want to get everything done in less than 10 minutes, the Industrial Revolution introduced machinery into the workforce.
This all started with a putting out system of merchants bringing cotton to women in cottages being too slow. Eventually, the merchants sassed the women about it, the women sassed the merchants about sassing them, and the mutual sassing led to people thinking,
what if I did have to get sassed to get those women to produce cloth? Anyway, the spinning jenny spun more than 1/3 at once, which was faster than the putting out system, and even faster than the spinning jenny was
the water frame. The water frame spun threads 100 times faster than the traditional spinning wheels.
Of course, this led to more sassing in the form of faster machines yet.
And this simple thing led to machines not even made to produce cloth. These machines were things like the seed drill for agriculture, telegraphs for telecommunication. That's right, I can sass you from my house! Better dams and canals for a reliable source of water with no unpredictable flooding, railroads and trains for transportation of goods and people.
And a bunch of steam-powered things that were produced when people unleashed the power of steam! Some of these steam machines were
steam machines that powered others with energy and steam ships, steam trains, steam fish.
I'm not hungry. Oh, steam fish wasn't invented in the Industrial Revolution? Oh well. Moving on. Another interesting fact about the Industrial Revolution is that it changed the concept of work.
Before the Industrial Revolution, work was a family affair where men did manual labor for work, women spun cotton into cloth in cottages, and children did chores.
But after the sassing began and machines were created,
labor was needed, which led to men in factories, women in factories, children in factories, pets in factories.
What? No, that didn't actually happen, but you get the idea. Everybody's in a factory, no more family interactions, everything's wonderful. Wait, what? That happened, and the Industrial Revolution introduced
unfairly long hours, hardly any food, crowded sleeping space, tenements, more cemeteries, toxic gases, machines that mutilated people. You get the drift.
Eventually, workers rose up against factory owners, gaining more fair and livable conditions in factories. And that's the Industrial Revolution. Now let's talk about the Meiji Restoration.
In the 1860s, an American commodore named Matthew C. Perry went to Japan to present a treaty. When the Japanese leaders saw the American warships and other technology was better than theirs, they decided they need not to copy China, again, and allow the industrialized West's influence. Ironically, the treaty was for Japan to allow foreign trade, and the technology that brought the treaty to Japan convinced Japan to sign it.
At the time, the Tokugawa shogunate was in power instead of the Emperor Meiji.
And a bunch of people, whose names I can't pronounce without biting my tongue, supported Meiji and helped him to take the throne on February 3rd, 1867. The official end of the Tokugawa shogunate was when Tokugawa Yoshinobu quit and gave his power to Emperor Meiji on November 9th of 1867. Even though Meiji officially had the power, he waited another 2 months to finally declare the completion of the restoration.
Insecure people.
The emperor placed all the Tokugawa lands under imperial control.
Some people were still loyal to the shogunate and escaped Japan, trying to set up their own republic, but the emperor's forces terminated those attempts. Not good enough, Sonny Joe! Finally, in 1871, all daimyo returned their domains to the emperor. Some had already agreed to give their domains to the emperor,
and some had to be persuaded, but all territory was given to the emperor, fully restoring his power.
Some of his reforms to Japan were military reforms, like having all 21-year-olds serve 4 years in the military and 3 more years in the reserve.
And abolishing the samurai's class by allowing everyone to have weapons, a right reserved priority to only the samurai. Of course, this caused the samurai to riot, which was stopped by the new Japanese Imperial Army. Isn't that just insulting?
However, the samurai stopped protesting eventually, and being educated, they took on jobs as
teachers, gunmakers, military officers, and government officials.
And Japan's industrialization brought exponential growth to industrial production and resource amounts.
Like silk, coal, ships, trains,
and steam-powered things like steamships, steam engines, steam trains, steam fish. Seriously, who keeps putting that in the script? Anyway, that's it for the Meiji Restoration.
The agricultural revolution increased productivity in food and involved crop rotation and seed drills, which are basically what they sound like.
With more food available, people became healthier, and of course, so did their babies.
So there were more live babies than dead babies. That sounded morbid.
Okay then. Of course, the higher live rate got cancelled out by the death rates induced by the workers in the factories in the Industrial Revolution. It's nice when things even out, right? Seriously, what? Stop doing that! You're running up our time! We're trying to go for 10 minutes or less here. Anyway.
More inventions include better plows, better transportation for crops, selective breeding where a certain type of crop is bred.
Kind of like how people make mules out of horses and donkeys. I could have said a better example, and I also could have said that better.
It sounds like people make mules by putting together horses and donkeys, like horse parts plus donkey parts.
Wait, that's not what a mule looks like. Okay, I'm getting too carried away.
Another part of the revolution was the enclosure movements. These were developments that prohibited common people from owning land. All of the new agricultural technology contributed to an exponential population increase in Europe.
And that's the agricultural revolution.
The Second Industrial Revolution, also referred to as the Technological Revolution, occurred during the late 19th and early 20th centuries.
The most important part of the technological revolution was the discovery of electricity.
But there were also other big discoveries like petroleum, better telecommunication technology like radios, telephones.
Yes, there was a time when flip phones were in.
But not in this time period. They had those weird contraptions that look like the phones that Bosco uses.
And metalworking processes like the hot blast technique and the Bessemer process. Of course, existing technologies were improved as well.
Like maritime technology, paper production, and energy sources.
So how did the world improve so much in just about 50 years? Science! At the time, people were also using more science and logic to come up with ideas, so their ideas were a lot better than many other periods, and things were developed faster.
Plus, with electricity and petroleum, things were a lot easier to develop than with steam.
And of course, that led to electric industrial products replacing steam-powered ones.
So that means no more need for steam engines, steam trains, steamships, steam fish. I swear that's in the script!
But in this case, however, unnecessary it is, it does prove a point.
Since there was electricity and oil, people could fry fish instead of steaming it. Logic.
The Second Industrial Revolution officially ended in 1914 because that's when World War I started.
I mean, you can't be mass-producing stuff when you're in total war. It just can't happen. Those are the major events from 1750 to 1900. Some other events include European settlement in Australia and New Zealand.
And the Great Age of Isms. This is when a bunch of those words that end ism, as the name suggests, were created. As would be liberalism, conservatism, nationalism, Marxism, socialism, romanticism, and all of those other isms. And on that note, on to the next key concept, imperialism and nation-state formation. Imperialism is when a country expands militarily, and a lot of countries did that. There was a great game, but it wasn't really a game.
Russia and Britain were just kind of fighting for power. There was a scramble for Africa where a bunch of Europeans tried to take African lands for themselves.
Opium Wars, which was just fighting for drugs. The Russo-Japanese War, where Japan fought Russia and won. And the Mexican-American War, which had the Alamo.
Spoiler alert, everyone in the Alamo died. Not too much on that.
Key concept number 3, nationalism, revolution, and reform.
Nationalism is the feeling of loyalty and unity to one's language and culture, like how we all pledge our allegiance to a flag every day. Nationalism's like that.
Nationalism also ties into revolution, and there were 4 major ones.
The American one, the French one, the Haitian one, and the Creole ones. From civics, we should all know the American Revolution with redcoats and G-Wash and Lafayette, so I won't cover that.
The French Revolution I will talk about, though. After the American Revolution, they were inspired by us to fight against the Brits, too.
And they also had Lafayette, but things were a lot messier. Buildings were burned, people were beheaded. Off with their heads!
Anyway, after the revolts of many angry peasants, the king was forced to deal with a new government.
Also, the beheading thing was the Reign of Terror starting in 1793, which, despite what the movie Mr. Peabody and Sherman tells us, was not started because the Marie Antoinette wouldn't give cake to the poor. It actually began because of a radical group called the Jacobins.
It's their fault! This dude named Maximilien Robespierre led the Committee of Public Safety, which actually killed whoever was against them.
But after he was beheaded, the Reign of Terror ended.
And eventually leading to the role of Napoleon Bonaparte, who was basically dictator of France. He also tried to invade Russia, but then winter came and they died. Rip them. During the Haitian Revolution, lots of slaves were mad at the white people for enslaving them, so this one dude named Toussaint Louverture was inspired by America and France and led a revolution against them. Oh yeah, the French also helped them too, but then betrayed them because betrayal is fun. Yay! Eventually, Haiti became the first country in Latin America to win independence, and the first post-colonial independent black-led country in the world. Double yay! There was also the Creole revolutions in Latin America, like Mexico's independence from Spain, many South American countries' independence from Spain, and Brazil's independence from Portugal. And I think that about covers most of the important stuff. So there you go, 1750 to 1900 in a huge nutshell. I'm Emmanuel, and this has been our Crusty Period 5 review project. Victoria, this took over 3 hours and a billion takes. You better edit this good.